YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back in Total War Rome 2. We're going to be jumping into some online action. This is just vanilla gameplay. The Blades Balance group is huge, and there's a ton of people on it, but every night when I've been getting on, none of them were in the in-game chat, or in the group chat, which is where I was used to finding some of those folks to play with. So if you are hoping to play some games with me in the evenings, my time, occasionally I'll jump into that Blade Balance group and check to see if anybody's in the chat, like the group chat. And if they're in there, that's usually where I'll try and find a match. If there's no one there, then I'm just going to go hit Quick Battle or the playlist. And I came up with this one. I'm going to play Carthage versus Nervii. In general, I would say Nervii is a stronger faction. So what I was trying to do with this army was not play my weakness against his strength. And my weakness would be infantry when against the Nervii. So I'm going to try and play my strength against his weakness, which would be I have better skirmishers. So I'm going to try and play Balearic Slingers against the Fierce Swords, which I expected. He was either going to have to bring Fierce Swords or Celtic Warriors, one of the two, both of which have a poor missile block chance and don't have much armor. So I knew there would be Oathsworn, so my goal was, you know what, just forget the Oathsworn till late game. They're going to chop a bunch of my men down. I'll just have to live with it. Kill the Fierce Swords. Get rid of, but I mean the Fierce Swords aren't even objective number one, really. His cavalry is objective number one. If I can kill his cavalry, should be able to win the game, because I don't see Celtic Slingers being able to stop Balearic Slingers from doing what they're going to do. And of course, if I have cavalry alive and he does not, they won't be a threat anyway. So kill his cavalry. That's my goal. So I brought an army that's kind of focused on doing that. I've got four Iberian swords. And basically, these guys are a couple of thousand javelins, but when you have 4 units, and that's going to be extremely handy. My main line is Mercenary Scutari with a couple of Noble Fighters, so I do have a couple of strong units in the center, 1 Libyan infantry, and that's just to give his guys a little bit of fight, and again, in case I had to face an Oathsworn, I would like to do some damage to it. And of course, I have a couple of tricks in my sleeve if I need to. I can charge cavalry to stop an Oathsworn. I'm not as worried about his cavalry on the flanks because he's just brought 1 Mighty Horse and 1 Germanic Scout Rider. The Germanic Scout Rider is not going to be able to do much with these Iberian swordsmen around unless it gets way around behind him. I've left 1 Spearman back here to kind of help protect my skirmishers and my general. And part of my idea here is I'm going to start trying to fire at his Fierce Swords. I'm going to ignore his Celtic Slingers. They're a waste of ammo. Try and punch a hole in the center of his line, and then I'm actually going to try and get risky and take my general and run down his Celtic Slingers, while my cavalry and Iberian swords focus on taking out his cavalry. It's going to turn messy because I'm not real good with micro, but again, if I can bring down his cavalry, I should be able to shoot his guys to death in the late game, and that's my main goal. So I'm going to bring that late Libyan hoplite forward because I'm not being really pushed by the Germanic Scout Riders. And here my opponent makes a mistake, which is key, and I make some too, but he's going to roll this Germanic Scout Cap forward. I don't know if he realized what these units were, but the Iberian swords are going to wreck that Scout Cavalry because he does not pull back quickly, so he's going to take a lot of javelins. So already, mission kind of being accomplished over here. Same thing over here. These Iberian swordsmen are going to hurl javelins into this Scout Rider, and I'm going to start getting kills. Levy Freeman cannot beat Iberian swords, and I knew that, so I figured this would be a good matchup. Here, though, I do get my elite infantry charged by Fierce Swords. That was a pretty bad mistake, but my guys will still win big there. And these noble fighters are also going to win big against the Fierce Swords, and you can see I have started to punch a hole in his Fierce Swords there. Or actually, one of these was a Libyan infantry, is that one. So my noble fighters, they'll do fine. They took a bit of a beating on the charge, but they'll do fine. I've slowed down some of his units over here. His Oathsworn is, as expected, chopping down a bunch of my units. But as you can see, his cavalry over here is dead. And his Mighty Horse is now going to be targeted by my Balearic Slingers. And I'm keeping 1 Carthaginian cavalry in reserve. He does still have a Germanic Scout Cav. But this little opening right here has allowed my general. I'm going to push through and I'm going to get his Slingers here momentarily. And this Noble Fighter here is just going to absolutely destroy these Fierce Swords because they didn't get a charge. Yeah, this Noble Fighter here is not going to do so good because it took a charge from the Fierce Swords, but it's still going to kill them. And here my Iberian swordsmen are going to cut down a lot of these Mighty Horse, along with my Slingers. So the Iberian swordsman doing a great job here. So he can't get any cavalry to my Slingers, and now I'm just going to start running away from his Oathsworn over here because that's going to buy me time, while my Noble Fighters help clean up the center, and my general cleans up the Slingers. So this is pretty much working to the extent that I wanted it to at the moment. Got some Iberian swordsmen in here. You know, he does bring that scout rider after me, which is a little bit bad. I should be able to target it with my slingers though, but I don't want him getting too many javelin tosses on my Carthaginian cavalry. I'd really like to keep it to late game. And this Carthaginian cavalry is going to die fighting Mighty Horse. In prolonged combat, the Carthaginian cav will do okay versus the Mighty Horse. The Mighty Horse has better charge and attack, but the Carthaginian cav is going to have, looks like, better armor. A little less health, though. So yeah, I'm just going to stay away from the Oathsworn. My general is killing a lot of the slingers. And then you can see here my slingers are going to target down the Germanic scout cavalry too, which is unable to get to my mercenary Balearic slingers. He really needed to try and get these levy freemen over here quicker. I don't know what they're doing right now, but they could actually put quite a bit of pressure on my Balearic slingers because they're light and fast. But now, again, this noble fighter's free, so I'm going to pull it back to my slingers. What units I have over here that are getting killed, I'm just going to let them be sacrificed. I'm not really worried about it. This mercenary Scutari still picked up 102 kills, which wasn't bad. And I've got another mercenary Scutari over here that I'm going to bring over. My general is going to come in here and kill some more Celtic slingers. And then over here, I'm just trying to get as many kills as I can out of this noble fighter. I had it in headhunt, and it is getting quite a few kills, albeit some of them are on these levy freemen. But again, those levy freemen definitely should have been chasing my slingers, because now I'm going to get exactly what I wanted. I've got this Iberian swordsman, another Scutari, my general is alive, these slingers of his are going to die, and my slingers are just going to start wreaking havoc on his troops. So here you can see that the Balearic slinger is a little bit blobbed up, but it's not too bad. I'm going to be slaughtering his Oathsworn and levy freemen at a pretty high rate. I will kill some of my own men, but this unit was going to die anyway. And this Oathsworn here, I'm getting some decent shots into the unshielded flank of it, which ought to make it pretty vulnerable to my slingers. We should see some more sling fire. At least I thought. Oh, no, I had to switch targets momentarily. There was this Mighty Horse that was just barely alive, but it was alive. So I made sure it was dead. But my slingers have plenty of ammo. And this mercenary noble fighter is in extremely good shape. He was trying to charge it with an Oathsworn, so I bait and switch with an Iberian sword. And it's going to take away the charge from his Oathsworn, and then I'm going to bring my noble fighter back so that it can actually potentially win here. The noble fighter has much better attack than the Oathsworn, a little bit less damage, less armor, but I mean the attack is better in general. So yeah, these Oathsworn are going to get picked apart by slingers. He is putting them in headhunt, which is smart, but I managed to get 201 kills out of that noble fighter, so it wasn't that bad. And this noble fighter is actually going to do very well versus the Oathsworn here. He does go into shield wall though, which is going to make it tough, and he's also in headhunt, so I go into headhunt to try and match. So that's going to push up my attack a little bit higher than his even. 97 or 71 and 71 attack right now both. Mine's up to 76 now. So yeah, and his headhunt's going to wear off first, which should be nice for my guys who are now all the way up to 81 attack. They're tanking out a lot of kills. And you can see here, this is what happens when Balearic slingers end up in late game and you don't have any cavalry to face them. It can be a nightmare. So those guys are dead. The Nervii general is headed in, wants to get a piece of this action. And that's fine. These noble fighters, they were going to easily take this fight from the Oathsworn, just because they didn't get a charge. The shield wall is helping them in terms of defense, but my noble fighters are just wrecking on him at this point, and the differential in attack is actually making a pretty big difference. Now his Oathsworn to get a decent charge, they're going to wrap around my guys a little, but I'm going to start collapsing in on him with everything I have left. So here comes my general's cavalry unit, and then I've got some Carthaginian cav coming in. I've got Iberian swords falling in from the flank, and so basically just collapsing in on the Oathsworn general with everything I had left, and he routs right before his headhunt got him into an unbreakable mode. So it was a good game. My opponent made some key mistakes here, and those key mistakes were throwing away his cavalry too early. He should have tried to... Well, he couldn't really skirmish more because I would easily beat his Celtic slingers, but it still almost would have been good for him if he tried to skirmish a little more. He would have had to try and keep his Celtic slingers up front, though. That way I would have had to have spent ammo on them and couldn't hit his fierce swords until the Celtic slingers were dead. What that would have done was at least cause my Balearic slingers to waste some ammo. And that would have worked to his favor because you can see what they did with their ammo. They killed a lot of people, and they still had ammo left before that battle was out. The other thing that he should have paid more attention to was he should have tried to engage my mercenary noble fighters with his Oathsworn right from the beginning. His Oathsworn were on the flank, and I kind of like that. You put your power on the flank, and you let your flanks overwhelm the enemy. That's not a bad strategy in general, but his center was so soft and squishy that I just crushed it immediately with these guys. And while his Oathsworn were out on the flanks, piddling around with some of the crappier units in my army, my guys were wiping out his whole center, basically, leaving his Oathsworn to be mostly unsupported because the Slingers got killed and the Fierce Swords got killed. So I think that was the problem with it. Again, good idea in general. Hope you all enjoyed it. Had a fun game with my opponent. Appreciate him playing. And I will be back with more Rome 2 battles in the future.